Today on the Clean Power Hour, a marketplace for solar PPAs by DNVGL, the Norwegian solar conglomerate. Giga Texas and GigaBerlin are building the machine to build the machine. We're going to show you some great footage of those projects. And the Earth is getting 115 gigawatts of solar despite COVID-19. I'm Tim Montague, your co-host. Welcome to the show, John Weaver, commercial solar guy and co-host.
Timothy, how are you this week? Your background is looking nice, so I like that. How's everything else going for you?
I like to say I'm the man in front of the curtain. But yes, it's all good. And we're having a lovely fall day here in central Illinois. I'm going to show some footage of a beautiful project also that I photographed with my drone at
Tracker
Parkland
Tuesday.
College. It is Tracker Tuesday.
Yeah.
So we got to do some tracker footage. And but we have so much good news to report on today, so we should probably get into it, John, unless you have a personal note you want to add.
I had an emotional moment driving my car the past weekend because I had to get out of the house and the music was playing beautifully and it was going down the road on its own. And it was like, oh, this is a little piece of heaven that I have right now driving through this fall weather with the piano playing. So, driving a Tesla Y, it's like a really sweet new ride. I hope, it was great. That's my only personal news for you.
I will concur. I took a drive out to a state park this weekend, and it's like gliding on air in so many ways. It's a very modern experience. Yeah, it's very smooth.
That's a good way of saying it. A very modern experience. Yes.
Yeah.
Perfect.
And then I visited a wind farm, which was also beautiful. We were able to get really close to the turbines, and the wind was cooking. And so you're standing there just in awe of this ginormous machine that is just cranking out the power.
I did math once to figure out how fast the tips of the turbine are going.
Oh, yeah.
Of the blades, and it's like hundreds of miles an hour. And it's like, wow, that's don't mess with that. So it's pretty neat to when I did that math, it was cool.
Yeah, I had to explain to my friend who was with me that that's why the turbine blades kill birds, because that tip is moving over 100 miles an hour. And so if it hits anything, it's lights out. The good news is it's an instantaneous kill, probably not a painful death, but it is a death nonetheless. The thing that my anti-wind friends forget is I have friends who are anti-wind because of the bird factor. Buildings and cars kill millions and millions of birds, people. So you also have to attack the built environment as a whole. And we can make buildings more bird friendly. We can make the glass on them more visible to birds, and we need to do that. But anyway, so I was, I don't know if this is news to anybody else, but I discovered this thing, the DNVGL Instatrust, an online PPA matching platform. And I remember years ago when I first got into solar, trying to find a marketplace, and it seemed like a very exclusive club of people that could have access to these markets. I know there's other markets, but this one is seemingly widely accessible, and it's accessible to buyers and sellers. So it's a matchmaking service, which is a good thing, right? So if you're developing a solar project or a hybrid project and you're going to have some clean energy to sell to an off-taker, then why not get it out there to a broad audience and get some bidding happening on it, right? To see what the market will bear. It's oftentimes with PPAs here in Illinois on my industrial projects, I'm just going to a few select developers who I know have good PPA pricing, but it's a very limited ecosystem. And this just blows the roof off of that. Do you have any thoughts about PPA marketplaces?
Well, to be, blunt, I've never really sold a virtual PPA, selling electricity into the grid at wholesale, and then at the same time having an off taker at, at a location that's somewhere far away. All of my projects have been behind the meter or selling directly to a utility. and that's just the bidding. This like when you said initially, a select group of people were able to sell projects via PPAs to corporate customers. That's similar to how I feel, because these are usually big deals, and you always hear the nice brand names like Starbucks and Microsoft and Google, and it's like, okay, how the heck do I even find the contact at those companies, let alone put together a solution that would meet their needs, their trust level, their bond requirements, et cetera, et cetera. And so it would be really sweet if there was a more flowing marketplace for energy for smaller projects, 5 to 10 megawatts. That would be kind of neat as well. I wonder if there's a spot for it. There's a lot of companies, small companies, who want to buy that much electricity. Different U.S. markets in the United States, you can buy electricity from whomever you want, and so maybe there's something there. I've heard about this talked about. Level 10, Level 10 has a great PPA marketplace as well, and you should reach out to Level 10 and get them to talk about their work, because they put out great data every quarter for the U.S. PPA wind and solar marketplace. We could get them on the show definitely and talk about this. I think it's cool. I want to see more of it.
Yeah, I mean, PPAs, there's a full spectrum of types and sizes. And, we're building school projects that are PPAs, solar PPAs. We're building portfolios of big box stores that are PPAs. We're wanting to develop a 5 megawatt behind the meter project for a mining company in Iowa that would be a PPA potentially, so that the company doesn't have to outlay that big, huge capital outlay on the front end. And it's a trade-off. And I'm going to show some photos. I mentioned this Parkland College project. That's a PPA. I'll explain that when I show that a little later on in the show. But DNVGL says its Instatrust tool scores offers of renewable energy according to their match with buyers' preferences, project feasibility, and supplier profile, and also gives feedback on trades to its registered clean energy providers. So it's, DNVGL is a very trusted brand, and it's a Norwegian company. We were talking in the pre-show about it. They got their start apparently in shipping, which I had no idea. I knew them as Den Norsk Veritas, as a security company in Norway. They provide security services for commercial and industrial facilities, but now they're also the big dogs in renewable energy verification. And what was the company that they merged with that does the module scorecard and the inverter scorecard? They're coming on the show again later. This PVAL.
Yeah, PVAL though split off from PVAL is their own group.
It was they merged and then they split. They were separate.
They did
and they
both?
merged. Yeah.
That's even better. That's cool. I didn't know that. I know the folks at PVAL well. They're good people. I love how smart they are. I love that they, it's like no BS when you talk with the folks there, because they're like, no, we did the math and we broke the thing, and this is how it broke, and these are the rules where how things break. No BS. And I just love that, because then I can tell customers, yeah, you know what? These people who are very serious people, they know what solar panels, and here it is. And that gives me, confidence that such serious individuals are, testing panels and putting the screws to it. So I like PVAL. Get them on the show. They're awesome.
Well, yeah, we already had one show with them talking about the module scorecard, and with Tristan, and then we have Michael Mills Price coming on in November. That's a pre-registered event, actually. If you just go to cesnrg.com/podcast, you can register for that event. I think it's the third week in November, before the Thanksgiving week. And so, yep, they also are doing a scorecard on storage now. And the same gentleman, Michael, is in charge of that program as well. So we're going to learn about that. All right, moving on to Arizona. What is the story, John? One of the greatest solar markets in the U.S. Cool. No surprise.
Yes. Some of the best sunlight on the planet, literally. So, it's been a while since we had a new headline of a state saying, hey, we're going to go for 100% clean energy. Last year it was happening a bunch. Year before it was happening a bunch, and it was great. And there are many states now who have long-term goals to have 100% renewable or 100% CO2 free. And Arizona went to CO2 free. They've got some solid nuclear. They've got great solar resources. They're already sourcing a lot of energy storage, and so they're moving on it. And now this is another state on the West Coast. It's really pushing hard out west. We're really just going to have everywhere east, everywhere west of the Rockies is almost done with coal. There's like a couple of plants in Utah and a couple of smaller, a few plants. There's not a lot, less than 5 probably. And pretty soon we're not going to have any coal west of the Rockies. And it's going to be run with some nuclear, some solar, some wind, some energy storage. There's going to be gas there for a while, slowly tailing off, but it's all even. And so this is yet another state that's going to go 100% emission-free electricity. And I just thought it was good. Arizona, politically speaking, very probably in the middle. Definitely not a lefty liberal state. So it's mainstream to have clean energy. I mean, it's just mainstream. It's as popular as apple pie is not breathing crap into your lungs. So it's just cool. It's cool to see. There's going to be good opportunity. They've got some strong rules that, for instance, by the year 2030, let's see what it is. By about 2032, they got to be at 75% emissions. By 2030, they have to be at like 50% renewable. So there's going to be some work there. There's going to be some projects to build. There's going to be some bids, and you're going to see some record low pricing coming out of Arizona. It's going to be beautiful.
The mantra I use is there's over 100 cities and states that have 100% renewable portfolio standards or goals to be, either carbon free or 100% renewable. Do you know, or what do you think that number of states is now that have put a stake in the ground? Because it's hard to keep up with the list. It's a growing cadre. Is it 10? Is it 20?
I don't know. I'm going to find out right now because I've seen this list many times. GTM tracks it. Let's check it out. 15 states per this list that I'm Solar World on says 15 states.
Okay.
So
here in Illinois, we have a governor who wants 100% RPS, and it'll be I think the goal is 100% by 2050. They'll probably go the carbon free route because we are heavily nuclearized, and that would be a good thing because right now we have a 25% by 2025, and we're not even going to achieve that with the current program. We are falling quite a bit short. So we got another story about the Southwest and a sister, I like to call it a sister state, the state of Utah, which also has amazing solar resources and the most amazing landscape, I will say, having visited there this summer. I grew up in New Mexico, as you know, John, and I thought New Mexico was beautiful. I've spent time in Colorado, Arizona, but never had spent time in Utah, and Utah wins. That it is the most beautiful place that I've ever been.
So technically, Monument Park right there is in Arizona. The entrance is in Utah. I'm just saying.
Well, yeah,
I'm just saying.
These borders are artificial. You look at the Four Corners area, it's all straight lines. The landscape is not straight. But Utah has had some ups and downs, and now they're facing a bit of a down. What is PSC anyway? Utah's PSC, Public Service Commission?
Yes, sir. So there's a public body that balances out the monopoly electricity companies, and the PSC in general is supposed to regulate these businesses because they're given a monopoly. They don't have to play by the standard rules, and you want to make sure they're not going to do anything foolish. So the PSC regulates them, and so the PSC has been doing research on what the value of electricity is within the Utah market and what people should be paid for it. And so they've decided that solar electricity that's exported to the grid, instead of paying it back at the full retail rate of 9 to 10 cents, it's going to get paid about 5 cents. And so, roughly speaking, if we export anywhere from 20 to 50% of our electricity, 30 to 50%, it's going to slow the payback by 12% to 20%. So I'm guessing the payback there was like 10 years, 9 years, 11 years. Now it's like 11, 12, 13 years to get a payback. And so that's net metering. And there's a logic that net metering electricity should be looked at from a different financial perspective. But I would argue it's too soon in markets like Utah, where the power grid has very, very little solar. I mean, we need to get to like 20% solar before we really start pulling back on net metering. And especially with the fact that there's Utah is one of the places which, funnily enough, it feeds Los Angeles, California, that has a coal plant in the West. So this is a cutback on money paid to those who install solar. And there's a dance around it. Whatever, this is going to slow, because step number one for residential customers is, can I save some money? Because that's what matters. People want to save 15, 20, 50 bucks a month, whatever it is. And now instead of saving 15, 20, 50, they're going to save 10, 15, 40. And there's just going to be fewer people that jump. And that's what happens when they cut net meter. So kind of sucks. It'll be a little bit less resi.
Yeah, here in Illinois, a resident can save $600 to $900 on average by going solar per year. So if you take 20% off of that, that is a non-trivial chunk. I like to say that the Public Service Commission is becoming the Public Disservice Commission, and just that name implies that it should be looking out for the masses, not the wealthy elites or the power structure, but that's certainly seems to be the case here.
Yeah, and one thing is that solar price is dropping, and the cost of panels are dropping, and the hardware dropping, the installation price is dropping, and all kinds of things. So maybe the price of hardware and installation labor will keep up with that drop. Maybe it won't. They'll keep installing. People are going to keep working. So, we got to push back. Net metering is important. This also will drive batteries. At some point, if you cut back net metering too much, people are just gonna be like, well, might as well buy a battery, save it, and then pump it back into my own house. And, it leads to evolution.
Yeah. I guess you could see it that way. All right. Well, here's a good story. This is a positive, slightly more upbeat story about New Jersey putting a stake in the ground for electric vehicles. New Jersey now is calling for 100% EVs by 2035, a first for the East Coast. New Jersey is a very progressive state when it comes to renewable energy. They are one of the top markets in the country. And I like to say that New Jersey, New York, and Massachusetts are 10 years ahead of us here in the Midwest. They certainly are putting a stake in the ground here for a ban on gas-powered car sales by 2035. There are 500,000 cars sold in New Jersey every year. So this is a lot of carbon potentially to come out of the infrastructure.
The ecosystem that has to develop to make this kind of stuff come forward is always interesting. I drive around in my Tesla. I charge in strategic places. I'm starting to learn where superchargers are and destination chargers are. And you just kind of bounce around. And then you realize there's only one company locally that really sells EVs. You see a few of them at the charging stations, different EVs, but it's mostly Teslas. And then you got a state like California saying, bam, we're going to do all these EVs. And you got a state like New Jersey, which is a big state. And you have Massachusetts pushing it. And just, reading these numbers of hundreds of thousands of EV sales per year in just this one state. And when it's Tesla just this year might sell 500,000 in total. And they represent like a huge percentage of the EV market in the United States. And it's like, there's gonna have to be a lot of growth in EV sales. And I'm really interested in how these different states are all going to do things differently with cars. Will they have vehicle to grid? Will they have incentives for corporate customers? Will they have the big buses? I love all the big trucks and buses and everything that are EV. So all this stuff is kind of neat to watch. This is a cool state. New Jersey's been doing solar for a long, long time. And I like the whole Northeast. Bunch of great states for solar.
If I was a governor or a mayor, I would be going all in on EV infrastructure to attract forward-thinking young people. You want young talent not only to stick around, but to stay, to migrate to your state. And there are very few places today that have really put a stake in the ground and stood out. Detroit is one. They are planning to be an EV friendly state and a self-driving automobile state. You see Waymo in Arizona doing their test run. I assume Arizona is playing nice with the EV industry. Our own governor here in Illinois has issued a white paper saying we are going to be a leader in infrastructure and manufacturing for EVs. We have Rivian with a manufacturing facility here in central Illinois. It's such a growth opportunity, John. It is mind boggling. And I know the Tesla haters don't get it. It's to this day, you watch these YouTube videos with analysts, even after Tesla reported 5 straight quarters of profitability, who are claiming that Elon Musk is insane and cannot deliver. And the proof is in the pudding and just totally different. And the stock that I gave my kids last year for Christmas was worth $350, and now it's worth $1,850. And Tesla's just getting started. We're going to show some footage of the Gigafactories in Berlin and Giga Texas. Maybe we'll do that next. But there's a huge, huge opportunity for consumers and for states if they would just grab onto it like New Jersey is doing. So kudos to New Jersey.
I'm really, we've had 120 years of internal combustion engine development, evolution, intelligence, things we've learned. And I'm super interested with what we're going to do with batteries and electric motors and all the wiring and all these systems and how they're going to evolve and how they're going to get smarter. Because if we drop anywhere near the same amount of development money in these types of systems, we're all going to be George Jetson zooming around with making weird noises. My car makes total weird space noises. It's got this backup noise that's great. Little kids love it. I took my brother's kids around 100 times around the block. So I'm interested in these EVs. They're going to be cool.
Yep. So let's talk gigafactories. It's so early days for Tesla, but they are on a mission to decarbonize the economy and to create a sustainable future for humanity. Okay, that is Elon Musk's goal. He is truly a humanitarian. He is also a genius inventor and seemingly genius business leader, with his myriad of companies, and it is a myriad. Tesla is just one of many. So here we see Giga Texas, as they call it. This is the ground being broken here in Austin. And the piece of real estate that this blew me away, John. The piece of real estate that Tesla has bought outside of Austin, and it's not far outside of downtown, is the swamp creature. I love that. It's 12 times bigger than the factory that they have in Fremont. Now, they're not going to build a factory that's 12 times bigger immediately, but they have a lot of room for growth here. And I think they're going to need it.
I've been doing some reading on electric about a lot of things that they're going to be doing at this facility. It's going to be batteries. It's going to be multiple vehicles. There's a lot of stuff going, and they actually exercise the right to land on the other side of the highway as well, maybe. I read about a one site having or one chunk of it being large enough for semi trailers to move within the structure. Like there's roads within the structure for semi trailers to move product. Probably electric semi trailers, but nonetheless, they're literally um, just there's a road inside of the building, a full big road.
Yep. They're going to be building a Cybertruck and the Tesla Semi here in Austin. And so, yeah, they need a lot of factory. Um, I'm going to segue to the Berlin footage because that is also quite impressive and it's further along. Um, and this this footage is seemingly, so here we are in Giga Berlin. We don't have a bird's eye view of this whole of uh, the whole area, unfortunately, in this footage, but it gives you a good feeling for how far along this facility is getting. You know, they built the factory in Shanghai in about 12 months. And now they're pumping out Model 3s in China. They're going to start making Model Ys, I think, also in China. But of course, the Model 3 is going to be probably the big seller. Smaller is better in a place like China. And
Really
I
big
love
building.
I love to see all the big cranes. Just huge facilities.
And
Um,
the Berlin facility is going to make some Model Ys, and they're going to be doing it with the two new techniques. One where they do a full press of a large piece of the car, maybe in two pieces. So you're
yep.
just going to have like two chunks put together for much of the structure. And then the second, they're going to be using structural batteries. The stamping. Oh, there you go. Nice. It just popped up on the screen. Thank you for that video. They'll be stamping the Model S here in two big chunks, and so that I think that's pretty cool. Apparently, that's a big thing to have such a large stamp, and these may be among the largest stamps in the world
Right.
for this type of thing, or just stamps in general. I thought that was pretty cool. Just
Yeah, and what that means, and for anybody curious about this stamping business, check out Sandy Munro, Munro, on YouTube. He does some great videos. He's an automobile engineering expert in Detroit, and he consults with all kinds of automobile makers and other manufacturers. But he's basically, the way that boils down is you're taking hundreds of parts and making them out of a single part now, right? That's what that stamp is doing, making the whole front end and the whole back end of the Model Y is what I've seen them talking about. And so it's going to be faster, more efficient. Musk thinks he can make an automobile factory 100 to 1,000 times more efficient. I'm curious what are these skylights, John? These domes on the roof here? I don't
okay.
recognize those, but
Looks like it.
yeah, they
We'll go
probably
with it.
just have plastic on them still
Yeah.
to protect them. But the scale of these buildings is very impressive. The other thing that Musk is inspirational to me for is each factory that they design and build is a completely different, more evolved machine. So they're becoming experts at building factories to build the machine. It's the machine to build the machine to build the machine. And I don't doubt that they're going to branch out into other industries. There's people that think they might get into the home building industry and take on like HVAC systems, the building envelope, and you know, who's to say they couldn't do it? It's just a question of how it fits into his mission. That's how Musk is going to decide. Is there an opportunity to decarbonize the economy? That will lead his decision making, I think.
These buildings are giant. Uh, he said at some point each factory will put out battery cells faster than they come out of a machine gun. Uh, with the new battery manufacturing processes, with the tabbed cells and everything, and the new constant through manufacturing, whereas before they had a process where it stopped. Now it's just swoosh. You just have metal coming in one side and cells coming out the other. You combine all the factories, it'd be like, I mean, I wonder what their total per hour manufacturing capacity of energy storage is going to be. Megawatts per hour being manufactured. That'd be pretty sweet because I mean, they have 3, 4, 5 gigafactories. They're going to have a Terafactory. The Texas factory might be a Terafactory, or that word just keeps getting said. So
Yeah, it's going to become a Terafactory. And yes, they're talking about terawatt hours of battery manufacturing now in the near future. So I don't have those stats in my head, but they are going after it. All right, dealer's choice, John. What's the next story you'd like to talk about?
Well, I really like talking about solar panels, and so I was reading an article. Two things I read this weekend. One of them was about Jollywood, which is a solar panel manufacturer, and they're a newer company. And I just wanted to talk about, first off, just to say a solar panel manufacturer, just so if somebody's listening now, you got a new company you can think about. Jollywood, they specialize in TopCON solar panels, which is a type of N-type solar cell. So it's a monocrystalline N-type, and N-types are, you dope the silicon with different things, and the molecule structure in one way or another, and so N-type moves electrons a little smoother around the outside. And I really, there were two things about this which I thought were cool. So the first one is that this company started off making back sheets. That was their specialty. They've delivered over 100 gigawatts worth of back sheets. The world has, 700, 600 gigawatts of solar in the world. And so that means this company has delivered 20%, 15%, 18% of the world's backsheet quantity. And so they know backsheets. They're like DuPont. In fact, they talk about this company being the one that first came up with the transparent backsheet idea to go for bifacial panels in a standard solar rack instead of glass on glass. And so this company and DuPont developed the transparent backsheet in a standard framed bifacial. And so after they became experts at backsheets, they said, you know what? We need to become experts at solar cells, and we need to pick a solar cell technology that is going to be the league leader. Let's go for the best. They're like a Ferrari. So they've picked out TopCon as their model of solar cell. And to be honest, this is a new mixture of cell that I don't know the best about how to describe it. So I'm going to keep learning about TopCon. But it's a 24% solar cell efficiency. It gets up to 24.5. And I want you to click on the Twitter link. And that Twitter link, I'd love for you to show the solar panel that's in that link, because it's the weirdest, coolest solar panel I've seen. And it comes from them. And it's just neat. It shows some potential. That's a bifacial solar panel. Click on that thing. That thing is a wobbly solar panel, and it can bend just fine. And all solar panels can do that. But that clear back sheet that you see there, that plastic, that lets light through. And it's just interesting. I'm really, really interested in this. I've always been interested in this picture. It's just always kind of excited me a little. Like, look at that weird solar panel, and it's a half cut, monocrystalline. It's got all the neat little text, and then it's soft and floppy. And reading about the company, they're just cool. They came up with this idea of
This is a TopCon product?
Yes, sir. That's a TopCon bifacial solar panel.
And what is the application though? Why a curving or flexible solar panel?
I think they were just showing it off. They make a standard solar panel that's in a standard aluminum frame. I think they were just saying, hey guys, this is what's made. This is what the world really is. Check it out. And, some people always want floppy solar panels, but maybe they're just showing off their product because they're an expert at encapsulant. So they can make solar panel encapsulant as well as anybody on the planet. And so I think maybe they were showing off some of their tech, and it's probably above my head what they're actually showing off because they're experts at stuff. But I just like the company. I just like that they're really taking solar panels by the innovation attack. It's not just, hey, let's make some panels. It's let's make the best damn thing we can. And so that's pretty cool. So next time somebody says, hey, who should I buy out of these five? If Jollywood's on the list, I'll be like, check them out because I think it'll be a good product.
Cool. Where is TopCon from? Is that a Chinese company too?
No, that's not a company. That's a technique. That's a technology. That's a type of solar cell. It's TopCon. I should know this really well. TopCon solar cells, and it's TopCon PV products. It's a tunnel oxide passivated contact. So it's a way for photons to move through the cells. So this tunnel oxide passivated contact. Passivated contact, that's with the PERC stuff. Passivated PERC, passivated rear. These are very technical things, and it takes me a little bit of time to go through the technical words. But it's just a new way of moving photons through the various molecules that make up those solar cells. In that image you saw them, they were like a rectangle.
Yeah.
It's a way of moving photons.
Well, we see a lot of mono-PERC. We see a lot of mono-PERC in the market right now, but isn't there technology that's going to transcend mono-PERC?
Well, maybe it'll, like, for instance, my gut feeling, like TopCon is an extension of mono-PERC. Well, it may be parallel to PERC actually, but I think that perovskite tandem products, I think perovskites will lay on top of mono-PERCs. And so we'll probably bring mono-PERCs along for another generation of solar cells. And then maybe we'll have multiple layers of perovskites or really weird concoctions, the multi-junction solar cells that are in space. Maybe we'll figure out how to make them cheap. But PERCs are going to be here for a few more years until something drives us into the 30s. And it may be coming already. Oxford PV and Meyer Burger, they're all working with heterojunction product. And even Jollywood noted it. Jollywood said that they might make a tandem product out of perovskite. And so I think perovskite on top of a standard mono-PERC will be a chunk of the future, but who knows?
Yep. Good stuff. And speaking of good stuff, you brought a story about the Vallecito Energy Storage Resilience Project. I'm going to go to your Twitter feed.
Yeah, I like that one. So first off, this is the Megapack. So it started off with me being interested in the Megapack being installed, and so that was step number one. It's just kind of cool. I think this is 4 megawatts at a time that they're dropping, but I don't know exactly. I don't know the hardware. The company, I found it via LinkedIn, and the company, the Bragg company, that's a crane company, and they were showing off their gear and the installation. Yeah. So obviously they're showing off. That's a sweet looking piece of machinery, of course. But it's kind of neat to see that Megapack comes straight from a factory, fully assembled, and it's getting deployed. And I think that site is going to get 40 megawatt hours.
Yep, 40 megawatt hours, front of the meter storage.
And it's super interesting. First off, I just wanted to show off pictures of a Megapack because I have to learn more about it. They're becoming bigger. I'm dealing with a project. After this phone call, I've got a phone call where I have to start working on a PPA that involves Megapacks. And the most interesting thing is that, first off, Clean Coalition of Southern California, they're awesome. That's another group you should get on the show. You should talk to Rosanna. She's so smart. And Clean Coalition is awesome. And they do a lot of work with microgrids and different than microgrid, like local resiliency. Like they did a map of San Diego on a node level, circuit level, and said, okay, if you want to make San Diego able to withstand a war, That's my wording. They didn't say any of that. If you want to make the power grid able to withstand an attack, distribute energy storage in this way across these commercial people, and you'll make the power grid super strong. They're also the group that helped push the very, very open grid data. And so, what they're for all of California, so you can know what's going on all over the California grid by going to a website. And with this installation, it's part of strengthening a very unstable power line, a power line that has been going down a whole bunch of times. It's located in a challenging region that goes through mudslides, through fires, through earthquakes. California, I mean, California's a little crazy. But and now they have these batteries so that when they're starting to stabilize this little region, and we are distributing batteries instead of upgrading power lines. And that's the wireless solutions dream that's being pitched by, the big battery companies that, listen, you don't need so many big power lines. You need solid power lines. And if they go down, well, we can locally manage it because we have distributed solar and batteries and cars, and we'll fix it in a couple of weeks, but we won't have a loss of convenience. We won't have a loss of life because the power grid's down. And so it's just a cool project to see get built. And then it's just sweet seeing the images of it, of the power packs or mega packs.
Yes, it is. It's very sweet to see megapacks going in. Utility scale storage is so important. And I mean, we have reported on several stories now in California, John, where they're installing hundreds of megawatt hours, right, of storage. So it's just a matter of time now before that trend sweeps the nation. As California goes, the rest of the country goes. The utilities are looking at this as an economic opportunity, right? They're not doing it out of the goodness of their hearts here in the Midwest. Um, it's an economic decision. I can shutter my coal and gas plants, bring new wind, solar, and storage online, save money, make more profit for my investors, and it is a win-win.
I agree. Are you familiar with what's going on in Indiana with Vectren and all the solar and storage and wind that's getting built there?
I have watched those RFPs. I don't know what the latest is. It's been a year and a half really since I heard much about it. But absolutely. And in Indiana is just one place. It's happening in Wisconsin. It's happening in Minnesota. It's happening in Michigan. It's happening in Illinois for other reasons. I don't see a lot of solar and storage yet in Illinois. We do have Invenergy built a 40 megawatt solar farm paired with, I think, 10 or 20 megawatts of batteries about 10 years ago. And so that was a groundbreaking installation at the time. And then nothing for 10 years. And now we're about to see a second wave. Acciona is doing a hybrid project in Northern Illinois now where they have a wind farm and they're installing a 120 megawatt solar farm around that wind farm. I don't know if they have any plans for storage, but we're going to start to see that here in the Midwest where existing wind farms get solar farms around them, right? It's a great pairing. And you have that infrastructure. I mean, you have to augment the infrastructure, no doubt, when you bring solar into a wind farm. But when you look at the way wind generates more in the winter, especially, and solar more in the summer, there's a nice balance there. Of course, wind also blows more at night, and that is a win-win for the grid. All right. What's next? We got a couple more stories. I want to talk about Tesla Powerhub. And I'm not surprised to learn about this, I guess, but it is a lesser known product. There's an actual product called Powerhub, which is just an intelligent software system to moderate or modulate all these assets. You've got solar, you've got batteries, you've got facilities, and you've got the grid, right? And these installations of batteries, whether they're grid scale or residential scale, they become a virtual power plant. And so you need a supercomputer, which I don't doubt Tesla can build to tell it what to do when, to make it run efficiently and to provide resiliency potentially for whole communities. Um, so this is actually going head to head with many of the other storage companies, I think, like STEM, maybe even like Intelligent Generation. They're our partner here in the Illinois market. But I would be afraid if I was a solar and storage software as a service, I would be very afraid right now, and trying to partner with Tesla, but we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, you really do have to have this type of software if you're going to control the battery product that you're going to sell. And, with Tesla being a premier energy storage manufacturer, it's really fundamental that they have this. To be honest, I didn't know that it existed until last week. And then it just so happened that this week I saw this article pop up and I'm like, well, I guess it's time to tell everybody else about it. Because, for me, it was new. If it's new for electric, then it's definitely new. But you have to have a controller. And something I saw recently said Tesla has over 120 microgrids around the world now, and a lot of these microgrids have gas and diesel. A lot of these microgrids have gas and diesel plus solar plus storage. And this is, now that we have remote generation of electricity at a relatively cheap price, these diesel generators, they're going to get shut off because they cost, $3, $4, $5, $8 a gallon to get diesel delivered. And that's expensive. And, you shut it off for 8, 9, 10, 12, 18 hours a day. And the economics are amazing. Yes, you got a lot of upfront cash, but the system, it's, you get free energy. You get free energy and you get the batteries that are a decent size now, and you can run a community. And with software like this, and I've never worked with it, and it's very young, and that's going to be, they better deliver well, because when the grid goes down, your hardware needs to stay up. And there's very talented people who've been building microgrids. Some very smart groups I've worked with recently. I was working with Amoresco, they're a developer in Massachusetts, and they work closely with ABB, who's a manufacturer of control systems, and they have an amazing control system. And as well, I was working with Scale Microgrid, and I was talking about their control system, which is really close work, customized Schneider hardware, combining energy storage and natural gas gensets, and they do grid forming. And so there's a lot of smart people that Tesla is going to compete with. And these software service people, this Powerhub, this is being deployed in the UK and Germany right now to allow individuals to trade in the energy market. And we have another story on the list, Fluence and AMS. They're doing the same thing. And these are people building hardware. And this type of stuff is going to be very important. And like in the Fluence article, they say something that energy storage is the first truly digital power grid asset. It can be moved, the electricity can be moved quickly, instantaneously, and you can just do stuff. And there it is. Yeah, there you go. There's the headline. See, I said it right. And that's a pretty interesting concept. So, there's a neat thing that I've been taught via Twitter, there's a lot of smart people in the energy industry that talk together on Twitter. And so I like to listen to them and learn. And one of the things they taught me about is the inefficiency of fossils. And first off, 50% of the energy that comes out of a fossil fuel is just immediately wasted to heat. It's just done, gone. 60% what the
Yep.
heck is that? And so it's
Same
like,
with the
okay,
ICE engine.
yeah, it's like, wow, that's crap. Well, so, the efficiencies that are going to be gained from the instantaneous responses that groups like Fluence and Tesla can do with their hardware, it's really going to tighten up our power grid. We might use 20, 30% less kilowatt hours because we'll just lose less, and because we'll react faster, and our systems will be smarter, and we'll generate and use what we need. And so this Power Hub software is like all the other smart people, like Fluence and AMS, and and Schneider and Scale and everybody. These are going to be smarter systems. We're going to have really smart microgrids, and our houses are going to get smarter. And there's every plug, every piece of hardware is going to communicate its electricity needs in a much more refined manner. And we're just going to look at a watch and be like, oh, those are the 27 things in my life right now that are using electricity. And here's how much, and here's why. And, we'll get sharper, we'll get better. And this is part of it. This type of software is part of it.
Good stuff. I want to cover one more story, and then I want to leave our listeners with a beautiful drone shot of the Parkland single axis tracker. It's Tracker Tuesday. I want to remind our listeners that we're doing a drive for subscribers on our YouTube channel. We're trying to get to 500 subscribers by the middle of November. So that clock is ticking. We need, I think, upwards of 30 subscribers now per day to achieve that goal. It's totally achievable, but only if you hit the subscribe button. So if you appreciate what me and John are bringing you, please do subscribe. Give us a thumbs up, hit that bell for the energy transition, and share this content with your friends and colleagues. That's the most powerful way on social media to amplify a message, is to share it. Liking it is great, but sharing it is really powerful. So we have a story in PV Magazine on the global solar market. Wood Mackenzie expects 115 gigawatts of solar this year, which would be 5% more than that of 2019, which is great considering that we are in a huge economic slump due to COVID-19. And China, of course, is leading the way with 39 gigawatts, which is mind-boggling.
Yeah, it's a lot of volume. It's generally WoodMac is a little more conservative in their numbers. So for them to be suggesting that we're gonna pop about 5 gigs or 5%, that's solid. If China's fourth quarter numbers come through again this year, and so far they've installed about 18 to 20 gigawatts. China's got to pop another 20 gigs in the fourth quarter to make their number come, but usually they do because that's what they do. But even the United States this is our year of big growth. This year we're going to set a new record by a whole bunch. Instead of installing, our prior record was 14.7 to 15 gigs back in 2016, and this year we're going to be somewhere in the 17 to probably not 20, but 17 to 19, 16 to 18 range, and that's going to be a new record. And then next year we're going to break that record. And that's pretty cool. 2 record-breaking years. So I'm really happy to see that the volume is still growing even in this complex time. So is that your school system that you installed?
We did not make this installation. This is just a project locally that I decided to go fly my drone at. And this is Parkland College. It's a community college in Champaign, Illinois. This project was one of the earlier 2 megawatt behind the meter. So it's 2 megawatt AC behind the meter. We have a 2 megawatt AC limit in Illinois for behind the meter, and it's a PPA. Was developed by Sol Systems. They sold the project to Con Ed on the East Coast, and we walked this project when the RFP came out. I don't know if we were a bidder though. That's a good question. I don't think we bid this. But it's just great to see these projects coming online now. This is Array Technologies. You can see the drive rod here. Okay. Array is distinctive in its use of a central drive rod. And that is a pro and a con. We're somewhat concerned about the maintenance implications of that drive rod going down the center of the array, but you just have to be able to turn your tractor around or back it out without crashing into the array. I thought this was interesting. This design shows that the rows of solar panels are only about 6 feet apart. Normally, I use 13 feet when I'm designing a single axis tracker. And so I have to hunt down the designer at Soul Systems and see why they were able to go with I'm guessing they were very constrained on land here. And so they just bit the bullet, and they end up with some shading in the early morning and the late afternoon. But you could see frost on the panels here. It was a chilly morning. This was just last weekend that this past Saturday, I think, or Friday actually, that I flew this. But great way to spend a Friday morning.
Always cool to fly over trackers and see them. I think they're neat looking.
And this project is going to save the college $20,000 to $30,000 a year, and that's this is good for our CNI customers to understand. You know, if they were to buy this project, it might cost $4 million, and then over 20 or 25 years, they might save on the order of $4 million. It's paid back in 5 years, and then the rest is gravy. So instead, they do very low or no cost out of pocket when they do third-party ownership, and then a third party owns this asset, they maintain it, and the college just agrees to buy the power at say a 10% discount over what they're paying today. So it's still a great project. It's still truly cleaning the grid. They also did a rec swap, I learned, on this project. So Illinois has a very generous rec market. When we have recs, we have a generous rec market, on the order of $40 a rec for large commercial. And so the developer Soul Systems is very savvy about these things because that's part of their business. They grew up as a rec trader into becoming a solar developer, and so they win these high value recs in the Illinois market, and then they swap them out for lower value recs from the Pennsylvania market. So, well, John, we've come to the end of another beautiful Clean Power Hour. I want to thank you for bringing us so much great news. I couldn't do this without you. And if there's a way that our listeners can reach you, what is that?
Go to that internet thing. It's in your pocket or on the big screen in front of you, and then type in commercial solar guy. And there are 10 different ways to find me. Commercialsolarguy.com, and go to the contact us form. You can message me on LinkedIn, Twitter. You can call me at 508-4999-SUN, or send up some smoke signals. I might be able to see them. Probably not. Don't use that technique.
Oh, that's funny. Well, I'm Tim Montague. You can reach me at cesnrg.com/videos. Please subscribe to the show, and we'll be back next week with another edition of the Clean Power Hour. Let's grow solar and storage. Thank you so much, John.